Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about five, I'll say characters slash teams that I've just been very surprised by. Five teams that I have really surprised me with how well they perform. Five characters that, hey, I built them and now I'm doing significantly better, or that they've opened up some possibilities that I didn't really have. And, this list was kind of inspired as I was looking through my account. I was like, man, you know what? I'd like to tell people that if you have these characters and you haven't yet brought them up, they can really make a difference in what you're able to do. And I think that's kind of the beauty of Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, is sometimes you have these things sitting in your account, you've got the stars on them, maybe you got a little bit of gear lying around, and by working on that character, by building maybe one of these, you get a lot more use than you really ever thought, and then it opens up other possibilities because of that investment, that those investments kind of pay off, whether it's immediate or even down the road. So please like and subscribe, comment down below. Let's give a shout out to our channel members, as always, for their continued support. If you're ever interested, y'all know where that link is. It's down below, along with a link to our Discord server. Thank you guys again for keeping the faith, believing in me. Whether you are just a council member, or you have been granted the rank of master or wampa, I do very much appreciate it. You guys are the best, and I am continuing to find ways to provide you with the best content possible. So let's get in here. Let's talk about these five, things that have very much surprised me by their performance. All right, folks. So the first one here is Gerrera and Luthen. I cannot tell you how shocked I am at how good they are. I knew that, they're beating this team, they're beating this team. But once you took away those datacrons, they were still a fantastic team. They had some very good datacrons. They've still got some very good datacrons. This team is unbelievably good. I cannot tell you how much I wasn't expecting them to do. I literally was like, oh, I'll build them and maybe I have a team for GAC, but I'll definitely have a team for territory battles. I was like, I'll throw them on my back wall, and, all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, they're getting holds, and wow, they're holding against GLs, and they are just so good. I am forever indebted to them for how good they are. And I think the big thing here is you've kind of got some options. Maybe you bought the Rogue One Lightspeed bundle, so you have Sharut and Baze to go with Kyle Katarn for 5v5, and maybe you don't, and you're like me, so you could create the super team if you don't have Leia yet, or you can kind of throw some other Rebel fighters here. But these guys really do, the one thing I would give Saw Gerrera and Luthen a lot of credit for here is that they don't discriminate with the Rebel fighters. They're just like, yep, we like Rebel fighters. So whether you're, whoever you're going to throw in here, obviously there's teams that are better than others, but they're pretty freaking good, right? I like this team a lot. I think they operate really well in and out of GAC. Because even outside of GAC, Territory Wars, I've used them a few times, but I'd say where they actually do a lot of really good stuff is Conquest. This is a very annoying team to kill. And so Conquest, they can really help you survive some of those annoying battles. So I, again, really do like that team. I was been very surprised with what they do. And, honestly, when you think about it, you're like, oh, Phil, well, the cost is crazy. It's not that bad when you sit back and you think about it, because Luthen's 1 Zeta, Saw is 2 Zetas, and then Kyle has 1. And if you use Sharut and Baze, you're done with Zetas. So 4 Zetas on a 5-person team. And, 2 Omicrons, I'll take that, right? I think I have more than 2 Omicrons on, single characters, let alone, a full team like this. So, I'd say for what it is, it's a pretty good team and very economically friendly to you. Listen, Trench off the bench, all right? I'm tired. I love Trench. I actually say, this is not the official one. I'm going to switch over to what the official one is in a second. But I had to put him here because I always love to do this to you guys and put him. But this honestly did kind of start off a little bit as a meme with Trench, where I was like, I'll take Trench up. I'll just bring him to Relic 7. I'm like, maybe I'll get to use him somewhere. And then I found out he was, amazing at territory battles. And then I find out he's, amazing in Conquest. And then when there's Separatist Datacrons and this team is getting crazy holds in Grand Arena, I just sat there and I'm like, I love Trench. So I do want to say, especially, this is my argument for you guys with Trench all the time. Dooku, Jango, Newton, Watt. These 4 guys right here are all Galactic Legend requirements. You need every single one of them at these relic levels for Galactic Legends. So bringing up Trench, he's the only one of the team that you don't have to build throughout the course of the game. So by building him, you get a whole other team that, I mean, I've beaten Dathomir with this team. I did beat, the Acklay mission in Geonosis. Please refrain from asking how many characters were alive and if it was just Django. I really wish I got that one on video. But they are useful. But that's not the team that I was gonna put here. I don't want to. I can't count that, right? I can't count that one. So if I'm being perfectly honest, I'd say one that I was very surprised with how much of a difference this did make to my account. And we're gonna come down here, and it's to the Star Fortress and the Common Pants. Those are two ships that this Resistance fleet has always kind of been a toss away. And I remember getting the Star Fortress, and it was still kind of the same thing where it's like, it's a giveaway fleet. But then when the Common Pants came in, you're like, it's still pretty easy. But I can tell you that I've gotten holds with this fleet before. And it's down to the fact that I've got a Star Fortress, and I have the Common Pants. Like, those are, you're like, well, no, Phil, like, it's Rey that kills me or Poe. Sure. But it's because there's other ships here to support them. And that's kind of, those two are ones that I was very surprised by, because especially if you're like me and you bought the Resistance Lightspeed bundle, there's no reason you don't go invest in those ships, especially if you've built up Zori. For what this fleet is, if you don't have it, it's just you're just giving it an advantage to your opponent that they don't have to worry about it. And you can be like, it's a trash fleet or something, but what if I get to place my Raddus on defense and you've got to go use something else against it? I mean, who has the advantage now, right? Like, do you follow that logic that, when you say, it's not that good, but then, your opponent gets to set it and you had to set some other defense that either takes away from what you can do offensively, or it's, an equally as trash fleet. So I did want to put this in here because I do think those two ships are ones that players seem to skip out on, and they really are worth it. All right, next is Cal Kestis, and you got to remember at the start of what this was. When I first built Jedi or Baby Cal to Relic 7, it was because I was behind on Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. I 1000% was very far behind on this guy. I didn't have, I forget what was going on at that time, but I was behind. And I remember my guild getting closer and closer to Braca, or getting closer into Zepho, and I was like, all right, I'm going to build Baby Cal to Relic 7 because I still have some time before I'll be able to get Jedi Knight Cal Kestis, and I'd like to try and help my guild. So I was like, I'm going to burn these Relic 7s, and I really thought of it as a waste. I cannot tell you how wrong I was. Cal, I get to use him in combat missions up to Relic 7, which is huge, but I'll tell you the other thing that's really been nice. Remember, his mastery is deflection and dodge chance. So I've been able to put him in my Rey team when I put him in my Rey team with JTR, and now you have two characters who are dodging. Oh my gosh. Becky, look at those dodges. It infuriates people when they get stuck behind that and these two are just constantly dodging. I am forever thankful that I almost felt guilty and took this guy to Relic 7 because he's been phenomenal. Really helps me get additional combats, and then inside of your GACs and other game modes, because he's stronger, it's harder to kill him. One of the things that I've done when I've gone up against certain Cals that are lower relic levels is before their mastery gets too high, I've been able to just snipe them out with Starkiller. And then the entire team is a non-threat. But your Cal's Relic 7 with a bunch of health and I can't one-shot him early on? I'm in trouble. So I absolutely think that's one that's been really surprising at how much use I've gotten out of him instead of just doing something as a holdover because I didn't get Cal Ripken Sr. Next is Enfys Nest, and she's kind of like a cockroach where she just refuses to leave the meta. In some way, shape, or form, Nest finds her way. Obviously, she's got a ridiculous Datacron right now. But even still, with as teams get created, she always kind of finds her way back into some sort of smuggler, scoundrel, or Rey team. I forever think Enfys Nest is one that she is truthfully, very plug and play. She's still one of those few characters you could consider plug and play. She doesn't really have a permanent home, but she fits in so well to so many teams and is extremely annoying to deal with. And I think that's the big part of what separates her from some other characters who are annoying, is that I can take Nest out of the Rey team, put her into a smuggler team. I've seen people put her with Night Sisters for, it kind of gets endless. I mean, I've seen the Enfys Nest lead, IG 11 and Queel teams, She really has a lot of good uses, and obviously, you can mod her for different things. But I'll say the biggest change with my account that I noticed with Nest was teams that used to get steamrolled by certain things. Like, for example, Dash Rendar. There was a point in time where I could steamroll a Dash Rendar with a CLS team. If I was pretty careful, I could do it. Man, I remember seeing my Dash team at times was losing to that, even with Vandor Chewbacca. I threw Nest in that team, and all of a sudden CLS wasn't as consistent. In fact, he almost never won because they just removed return meter the whole time, and it was glorious. So sometimes you're like, oh, well, my team's not getting any more holds. Maybe the team that you're putting Nest in isn't getting the holds, but some other team in your defense is, because your opponent has to make sure they have the ability to take care of Nest. And that's kind of just something to think about with your Grand Arenas in total here. If I kind of segue into Grand Arena here, that you can oftentimes win a GAC, not because your Nest got a hold, or because your Resistance Fleet got a hold, or because Saw Luthen and whoever got a hold, but you can win that GAC because it forced your opponent to use a counter that was maybe more expensive than they were expecting, and then they drop on something like Trench where they don't have the resources to make up for it, right? So that's just something to think about there. And then the last one is Gar Saxon and Imperial Super Commando, and this is hindsight is 2020 if I've ever heard it. These two characters are fantastic, and they are pilots for the Gauntlet Starfighter, which is a very important ship in certain counters, and having these two stronger allows it to stick around longer. It performs a really good function. But these two guys have that Mandalorian tag, and more importantly, it's that dark side Mandalorian tag. And with Lord Vader getting a whole brand new team and Maul getting kicked to the curb, Gar Saxon and Imperial Super Commando real estate just skyrocketed, right? It is doing the opposite of what the housing market did in 2008, right? This is the opposite of The Big Short. This is, a team that, those are two characters in my opinion that I would start thinking about. They're low Kyra tech, no Zetas. They really help you. And I think especially where this team shines at the moment for me is 3v3. 5v5, it's a little bit tougher because Maul still goes with Lord Vader a lot. But if you have the ability to run Gar, ISC, and Maul against something, it's pretty good banner. It's pretty good banners. Normally you lose something on Maul, but those two will recover their own. But the bigger thing that it allows you to do is, especially now, clones with Lord Vader, you get to do your own thing, but maybe I can split off Lord Vader, go tackle something where I don't need Maul, and then I can go tackle something else that's pretty high value, or set this team on defense, because that's a team defensively that a lot of players might not have the counter to, or might not understand how to counter it, so they go to swago.gg and then they misplay the counter because they don't know what they're doing. That's kind of where I'd put those things. So I would say hindsight's 2020. I'm really glad that I built those characters. I've had them for a while, and I was looking the other day, and I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing with these guys. And then raid news, Lord Vader's getting a new team, and I just was jumping for joy that, these two will start making their way into my teams with a lot more consistency outside of just maybe a 3v3. So those are some characters that surprised me. Let me know your thoughts down below. Please like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the Force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.